Well, so you were, you're going to ask about, I was going to tell you like three pieces of advice on LinkedIn,
Right.
because I have finally gotten to a point where, I feel like I have a pretty good system, but it took me a while to kind of like decode
Great.
it.
Great.
So number one is I never post anything live to the feed. I
Yeah.
always write it
Me
down
either.
first. I feel like
Yeah.
it's way
Totally.
too stressful. I talk to a lot of
Yes.
executives, so many CEOs to your point, they want to actually post and engage because they realize what a powerful community is and
Oh,
how
yeah,
great it is
totally.
for
Yeah.
their company brand and their personal brand. So they want to, but they're afraid to. And then I think it's such a daunting task to sit down in front of an empty box and suddenly you have to type in a brilliant thought. I'm like, yeah, it's never gonna happen, right? So I never post anything live. I have a notebook of ideas. I probably have 50 unposted ideas that
Good.
I'm still working on, right? So I have a
Good. Good. Good.
catalog of it. Some of
Yeah.
it and most of my content is what I would classify as evergreen content. I see a lot of people there commenting on things that are happening in the news or what Elon's doing or Tesla or Brian Chesky or whatever. Fine, but I try to post content that's can more stand the test of time, right?
Mm,
So I have a lot
good.
of evergreen content and I work on it until it's interesting enough in my notebook. Does it have a point of view? Is it interesting enough? Is it something I will be proud to put out in the world? And if not, I either scrap it or I keep working on it until it's interesting enough. So that's the first tip is like, just create a notebook. I have it on my phone, it's synced up to the cloud. So I have it on my phone, my laptop. A lot of times it's when I'm out walking or I'm
Oh,
running,
good.
I stop and I take like, oh, I just had this thought. And then I just write down, like, honestly, Steve, it's like sometimes just a sentence, like, oh, it's just a sentence in a notebook. And then I'll come back to it. But it gives me enough, like, of a reminder when I come back and I have a little bit more time to work on it, see if it's something interesting. That's the first tip. Write it down
Good.
because it takes the pressure out of doing something live. And then you can also focus on your tone of voice and your point of view because the only way to get traction, the second thing is there's so much content out there. There's so much noise. So unless you have something interesting to say or a different point of view or a pretty clear tone of voice around it, you're never gonna break through. It's never gonna get anything. And then you after like 6 months of posting, you're like, nobody cares. Yeah, because it's not interesting enough, right?
Right.
And so the only way your content's gonna break through is by honing that in. And then find your like areas of things that you really care about enough to I would say either become a subject matter expert or maybe you already are one. So I post about leadership a lot, post about culture, post about marketing, and then I try to post about like life insights. Those are kind of like the four topics that I generally try to stay within because I'm very passionate about it. I know a lot about those kinds of things. Rarely will I go beyond those lines. Not because I can't. It's just like
Yep.
I don't.
Good.
Just because I have an opinion about some shit doesn't mean I need to share my opinion. Right? There's enough content out there, right? So that's the second thing is like figuring out like what do you want to be known for? What do you want to be known for being an expert in? And then the third thing I realized around like LinkedIn especially, but maybe also the other tools is as good as it is an external communication tool, it's an equally good internal communication tool. It took me a while to figure this out. If you're the
Mm,
CEO of a company
mm,
or an executive, I can guarantee you that everybody on your team, or maybe if you're the CEO, everybody in your company is going to pay attention to what you post. And I
yes.
started realizing this during the pandemic is like, I would post, I started ramping up my posts to do more like one a day or maybe one every 2 days. And I would get notices from the engineers or the salespeople that I never met, like, hey, what you posted really inspired me, or that was great. And so I also started using it to like post maybe inspirational messages or more
Good.
things about how I think it saw the business, so because how often does it, if you're a company of let's say 1,000 people,
Yep.
how often do you get to go in front of the whole company
Right.
and chat to them? Not very often, but
Good
LinkedIn
stuff.
or other social media platforms could easily be used for that. So it's an equally great
Great point.
internal communication tool. It's a way for you to like every day share something with them. If you're like say a sales leader, let's be honest, sales is very tough right now for most companies, right? They're
Yes.
not
Yes.
closing as much business, pipeline is tough,
Mhm.
sales reps are out there fighting, tooth and nail to close every deal. If I was a sales leader, I would be on there every day with something motivational to my team. And of course the world sees it, so it has to be something that's relevant to the world, but I can guarantee you your whole team is going to see it too.
I love all three of those. And let me just highlight the third one. I actually, when I post,
Mhm.
I actually take the link to that LinkedIn post and then drop it in an email to the entire team to say, FYI, I did this post on LinkedIn today.
Okay.